Better self-awareness is good for your relationships, and we're going to help you improve your self-awareness. So today we're going to focus specifically on your self-awareness in terms of how you relate to others in relationships. Now I'm going to post another video in this series a week after this one on self-awareness and leadership, and I'll link to that one below and up in the card here when it's done. But today we'll look at 4 ways to increase your self-awareness in relationships, and I want to give you a warning that the 4th one we are going to get real about. So number 1, how do you relate to others? I'm going to draw some questions from a killer theory about relationships called relational dialectics theory that explains a lot about how we relate to other people. It describes the various push and pull dynamics you experience in all of your important relationships. So the first tension or dialectic is connection versus autonomy. So answer these questions as we go. Do you like to feel connected to people, or do you prefer your autonomy, your independence? For example, when you're hanging around with others, are you the one of the people that really wants to get some space away for a few days or more after you hang out? Or are you somebody who likes to just keep hanging out a lot? Now, there's no right or wrong answer here either, but if you or the other person wants more or less time apart, it does mean that there'll be some tension. It doesn't mean there's a problem in the relationship because these tensions are common, but you will experience that tension. The same goes for the other dialectics. So next we'll talk about the tension we feel about certainty versus uncertainty. Do you prefer things to be stable, predictable, and consistent? Or do you like lots of variety and change? Do you always want to experience something new? It's not very likely, for example, that you have the exact same preferences as the people around you, and so these differences can cause tension. Next is openness versus closedness. Are you open about your life? Are you willing to talk about almost anything? Or do you prefer to be more closed off, more private, at least for a while? So sometimes people are really open about some things, but closed about other issues. And so for you could be in the middle on some of these issues, depending upon who you're thinking about as you relate to. But in general, which way do you lean on these? And for me, I prefer, for example, more connection, more consistency, and more openness. And my wife is close to me on these, but she prefers more autonomy than me, even more consistency, and even more openness. So even though we are similar, there's a gap in each of those tensions between us that causes friction. It's that push and pull dynamic. It's very unlikely that you come out the same as other people in each area. But once you have self-awareness about how you relate to others in these ways, you can find creative solutions and compromises to strengthen your relationship. And that's really the first step in self-awareness, to become aware. This is a killer model to help you become more self-aware. Number 2, how would your friends describe your personality? Specifically, would they say you're more self-centered or more other-centered? I know a guy, for example, and it's possible he's watching, but he's listening to his wife tell a story the other day, and then he interrupts her and says, "What's this got to do with me?" Now, he's a good guy, but he'd be the first one to acknowledge that he can be self-centered. So when people are talking about their lives, do you wish the conversation was about you instead? If somebody shares some good news, do you feel happy for them and say things like, "Congratulations, you got your essay published"? Or do you feel competitive like, "Yeah, well, I'm going to get my story made into a movie, okay?" So which way do you lean? Are you that other-centered type of person? Are you quick to empathize with other people and be curious about their lives? Or are you somebody who leans a little toward wanting what they want out of the situation? Now, again, there's no ultimate right or wrong here, but the way you relate to others in general benefits from leaning toward being other-centered. Not many good relationships are built on self-centered behaviors, in other words. So if this is you, you may want to look carefully if you lean toward self-centeredness and figure out what's at the root of that for you. It's quite possible that this is a source of difficulty in your relationships that you need to be aware of. Number 3, your priorities shape your relationships. But many people never really get clear on exactly what their priorities are. So what are your top 5 priorities in life? I suggest you write down your top 5 priorities and put them in order. So rank the top 5 things you care most about. For me, my top 5 are my faith, family, relationships, work, and health. So what's most important on your list? What's next most important, and so forth? For mine, I have struggled with this ranked order in my daily life. There are many times where I say I value relationships over work, but I find myself sometimes not making any social plans to get together with friends for weeks because I'm too caught up in my projects. I'm not really happy about this, but this struggle does help me become more self-aware of how I really am. I say I value one thing, strong relationships, but my actions don't always line up with that because I work too much and I don't make social plans. So that internal friction reveals my priorities are sometimes in conflict. For you, I suggest you go ahead and make a list of your top 5 priorities and be brutally honest with yourself. Number 4, what are your issues? And I'll put that in quotes. And I'm putting that in quotes from my old friend Angel. If you're watching, I'm quoting you. As mentioned, we're going to get real here and we're going to go into the deep end of the pool. Do you have any areas of your emotional life you struggle with? Now, we just can't have an honest discussion about self-awareness and not talk about this. Because those issues, those struggles will influence your relationships. In most cases, if you have not yet dealt with your past, it will profoundly shape your relationships now. So we'll mention some common issues. Do you, for example, struggle with depression, anxiety, anger, loneliness? I used to have a huge struggle with anxiety. According to the Anxiety and Depression Society of America, around 18% of the people in the U.S. struggle with anxiety. Around 10% of adults per year struggle with some type of depression. And if you count untreated, undiagnosed depression, I'll bet the number is closer to 20%. Same goes for anger issues. I know a lot of people who struggle with anger, and that will come out in their relationships. Over 40% of people in the U.S. struggle with loneliness. Now, I don't have a magic cure for these issues, but we're talking about becoming more self-aware and realizing that it's an issue is really the first step. And like for me, my anxiety and depression, at first I thought I was just in a really bad mood for 3 years straight, but I figured out that there was a root issue from my past that was driving this anxiety. Now, God willing, you're not currently struggling with any of these, but I do know this. I've never met a person who didn't at some point struggle with something heavy. These issues are not just something we can contain on the side. Very often our issues are steering our whole life as we relate to other people. Now, clearly I'm not a therapist, and if you ask me what to do about this in the comments below, I won't really know. But I do know that there are good answers out there for these issues. Like most counseling and therapy helps if you stick with it. Most schools, churches, local communities have free or low-cost counseling of some sort. But maybe in the spirit of this video, you start with your relationships. Maybe you could be more open with a trusted friend, a friend who is more mature than you, and begin having a conversation about it. Maybe this is the area that you can be more open with. It's very likely that they will be able to relate to you in somehow if you talk to a trusted friend. And now, if you're not currently struggling with this, then be very grateful for that. So, big picture, I suggest you pick one of these and get serious about it and invest some time in increasing your self-awareness. You could start by writing out some ideas, journaling your thoughts. It's a good investment of time because your increased self-awareness will dramatically improve your relationships. And as a reminder, the next video in this series is on leadership and self-awareness, and it'll come out a week after this one, and I'll link to it in the description below this video when it's ready.